I like video games.
Oh ho ho, it's a new year, which means it's time for a new game plan.
Oh my god, I hate when you do this. I hate when this happens. Don't you guys hate it when you just want to jump into something and have fun immediately, but then someone keeps talking and talking and you can't even skip it? Anyways, today we're going to talk about video game cutscenes. Let's talk about some storytelling in video games. I'm back to my addiction. Sometimes I think I'm not negative enough, and then I go too easy on things, and because of that, I'm like, alright, let's try and be harder a little bit. And then as soon as I'm negative, I think, you know what, I'm negative too much. Originally, this was going to be my magnum opus, my journalistic gateway, my multi-hour analysis and critique of game design from someone who's never worked on a video game before. But instead, I decided to frame this video in a more positive light so I could bring up a game I really love that does not have this problem that I hate so much. So without further ado, I hate cutscenes. I hate playing a video game and getting so into the adventure and getting invested, and then it screeches to a halt and I have to put my controller down and try my best to care about what's happening on screen. Video games are getting more and more powerful, but there's really nothing we can do about loading screens. I'll give loading screens a pass. That is something we just have to deal with. However, there are some games that have found a way around this. Either let you put in some nice combos on the loading screen or let you spin the dragon. That's not a euphemism. I'm being very literal. But beyond loading screens, which are a necessary annoyance, any opportunity a video game gives you to put your entire controller down without even pausing the game, why? And I can handle cutscenes if I'm already having fun playing the game. Sometimes gameplay makes it worth sitting through the boring. What I can't stand at all are story video games. I guess I should put quotations around the video games and not the story part, that have little to no gameplay at all, that are just there to tell you a nice story. I never get mad about video games. I never let online arguments get me riled up in real life. That's how you know you've lost. But as soon as that cat game got nominated for Game of the Year, I complained about it to everyone that would listen. I played that game to completion, 100%. I thought it was gonna be a fun little cat platformer where you're a cat and you get to jump around and platform on stuff. It's not. You have one interact button. It is a glorified point-and-click adventure game. And when I try to explain this to people, I sound like I'm crazy because storytelling is a very important part of game design, and I agree. But there are other ways to tell a compelling story in a video game without strapping you to your chair and locking your eyelids open Clockwork Orange style. Let's take a game series like, oh, I don't know, Metroid, for example. Metroid is one of the most atmospheric game series in existence, and the only dialogue you get is at the beginning and the end of each game. Let's look at the way Super Metroid opens. The first thing you see is the title screen. You can't quite make out what's going on, but clearly some kind of lab has had a terrible accident. You land on a planet that looks exactly like the title screen you just saw, and as you make your way through the level, you see the crime scene for yourself. It's right in front of you. Something terrible happened here. You open the door to the next room and you see the game's namesake, the Metroid. That has to be related. So you make your way over to said Metroid and try to kill it, only to find out that it cannot be shot. But by the time you realize this, it's already too late. The eyes of the giant dragon appear, a dragon you can in fact shoot, meaning that the first fight in the game is happening right now. And that means he can hit you too. You need to be careful. Ridley, the giant dragon pirate thing, tries to kill you in the first level of the game. And you don't even kill him. He manages to get away, and then you have to quickly escape the exploding arc you just landed on. Then way later in the game, when you're decked out in all your sick gear, you have to fight Ridley again, but this time you're ready. This time, he appears immediately. No cutscene, no dialogue. And don't say it's because he's a dragon. Oh, of course he doesn't speak dialogue. You've read the comic? Ridley canonically speaks English. He can communicate. He's like a normal guy. He just looks like that. The story here is being told through the gameplay. The game doesn't stop you to tell you how important this fight is, that Ridley killed Samus's parents. It's important because the environment surrounding each fight. And when Metroid Fusion comes around, you know Ridley by this point. You drop right into his fight and realize, oh shit, that's Ridley. And don't even get me started on Nightmare. Look at this thing. What a What a nightmare. But Andrew, I thought we were talking about Portal. Why are you talking about Metroid so much? I can only handle so many female protagonists in a video game. It's because that series is the perfect example for what I'm about to talk about. Because in Metroid Dread, the modern in quotation marks, do it again, Metroid game, we get introduced to the bosses like this, with long, opening, cinematic cutscenes. Like, oh my god, you guys know Kraid? Kraid from Metroid? Kraid's in this game. You're like, yeah, I know Kraid. It's a Metroid game. Can I fight him, please? And these points suck even more because Metroid Dread does legitimately have great moments of active storytelling. You watch any compilation or playthrough of people reacting to these boss fight opening cutscenes, and they're gonna look bored. Watch them react to the Emmy chasing them for the first time, and it's
so good. No, 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 no.
Wait, frick, wait.
I don't want to go back in.
Get me out of here, Mom!
It's more impactful because in the cutscene, you're just watching it. When you're being chased, you're the one being chased. You're the one that has to run away. I got a question. Why do so many people talk about Minecraft as if it's a horror game? That game isn't scary. That's because in so many actual horror games, the only punishment you get for getting caught or dying is just doing the game again. Oh no, Foxy got me at 3 a.m. I guess I gotta go back to 1 a.m. and just do it again. In Minecraft, let me paint you a beautiful picture. Imagine you have all your important rare artifacts you have. You just picked them up from an interesting cave and you're far away from home, you're very lost and it's getting dark and you hear hiss. I can't replicate it, but it's a hissing noise. That's way scarier than any horror game I have ever played. You know why? Because it has stakes. That's your stuff. If you die, you lose it. That is far scarier than, oh god, Slenderman caught you, static. Play the game again. When the creeper blows up in your face, there's no way you're finding your stuff again. That is way worse. Speaking of metal characters shooting things, I'm referring to Metroid, Mega Man X. What a great transition. Mega Man X, the first one. You don't have to sit through, what am I fighting for? This is a video game. For this portion of the video, I'm gonna be heavily ripping off Mr. Sequelitis. But what's he gonna do about it? Make another sequelitis video? Same thing from Super Metroid. You come across Purple Guy and you try and kill him, but he kicks your ass. And then, right before he finishes the job, you hear a metallic noise from off screen and then BAM! Long hair anime boy scares the Purple Guy, and then they both run away, and all you're left thinking is, that guy's cool. He shot the guy I couldn't hit. He's strong. I want to marry him. You can make a character instantly cool by just showing them being cool. You don't need cool writing. You definitely don't need
a Chaos Emerald? You've got to be kidding me, guys. This is like taking candy from a baby, which is fine by me.
You know, I was just going to use that bit as a throwaway joke to make fun of Sonic. I guess I am sequelitis guy now. Let's talk about Sonic, though. This is how Knuckles the Echidna is introduced. No dialogue, no trying to be edgy lines, he just punches you really hard and steals all your emeralds. Anyone who's played the previous game knows these emeralds, and by extension Super Sonic, are the most powerful things in their known universe so far. And this guy just punches you out of it and runs your pockets. What an instant badass. Admittedly, for the point I'm trying to make, that is a cutscene, but it's still tied to what I'm talking about, because that is in-game. But the way cutscenes work in that game is they look exactly like the rest of the game does. So you get punched instantly, and then bam, you're in the game, you're running. You're like, oh, I gotta get my stuff back. That dude just punched me in the face. I can't just sit down taking that. Think about games like Fallout or Skyrim that are overflowing with environmental storytelling, but also won't stop talking to you. Hey, Pokemon fans, I know you're out there. Let me ask you a question. What's your favorite Pokemon memory of, like, playing the games? Because I'd wager to say they probably have nothing to do with the story. Catching a shiny, winning a battle, trading with friends, finding a glitch. No one out there is thinking, oh, my fondest Pokemon memory is when Barry ran into me and then didn't apologize for it. If it is, you probably have a thing for Barry, which is, you know, to each their own. The best piece of storytelling in all of Pokemon is in Sun and Moon, where you can see this Pikachu, Slowpoke, and Pyukumuku hanging out the whole game, and then when you get to Lucamine's lab, you see those three Pokemon frozen, preserved against their will. The beautiful nature of the Pokemon world has been corrupted by this strange woman. That makes you hate her way more than anything Lily has to say to you. I know people really like Lily. Alright, I like Lily too. I'm proving a point here. Games like Dark Souls, and very similar to Dark Souls, Kirby, have very active lore communities, but have very little story when you actually play them. That's because the lore is hidden. It's not all in-your-face cutscenes you have to sit through. If you want lore, you have to seek it out. And what makes this fun is sometimes there are little things that happen in the game that, if you know the lore, are way more important. People who don't read the very small fine print of Kirby games don't know shit about this butterfly, but they can still enjoy the game to its fullest potential. People hate The Last of Us Part 2, but not for the same reason that I hate it. They hate it because they don't like the story. I hate it because I actually like the story, but that's all there is. I would like to play a video game. I got a question. When do I get to play the video game? I don't care about any of these people. In the first game, you get to shoot zombies and knock out the occasional puzzle. In this game, what do you have? Sex? Is that what you guys want? If you want sex in your video game, go play God of War. At least that one has a quick time event. At least you're doing something. And it's so annoying when there's like potential that you see, because when The Last of Us does tell its story through gameplay, unmatched. It's the best at it. The guitar you play at the beginning of the game, and yes, you play it, you the player get to play the guitar. At the end of the game, you now cannot play it anymore because of Ellie's decisions through the story. When you play as the people later that you killed as Ellie, you feel really bad because you know these people, and then when you played, you kill them. But that's where it ends. Hope you like watching a movie that doesn't look real and takes way too long. A lot of people are singing the recent The Last of Us show's praises, and I agree, it's a great show, but people are saying like, oh man, they finally learned how to adapt a video game into a good show. But the video game itself was already basically, like, it was all story and no gameplay. It's not that hard. When you're making the Mario movie, you're like, oh yeah, put pipes in it, put Mario. If you're making a Last of Us show, the script is already written. Here's my one little last thing about The Last of Us to that guy who makes The Last of Us. If you are so obsessed with your video games becoming more and more like movies, it's maybe you just hate video games, man. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. I'm not doing that again. Everything that exists in this world is purposeful. There aren't just floating platforms, this is a living, breathing world. The residents in Mario Odyssey make each little area feel like a lived-in universe. You could sit down on the bench with a stranger. Mario is cold when it's cold. Now look at a game like Sonic Frontiers. Looks like somebody dropped their Hot Wheels playset. But look at Sonic Mania. All these levels, they truly feel like an alive world, and not one I have to sit through awkward cutscenes to understand. Hey look, the Korok seeds are in love. Oh my god, that reminds me, I forgot about Breath of the Wild. Okay, so the way Breath of the Wild tells its story through its world and gameplay. Haha. Alright, turn the ship's power back on. Doesn't feel good to be cut off, does it? You're right. I'm sorry. I was going way off track. I think it's time we actually talk about what this video is supposed to be about. System Shock and Half-Life. 1994, a game called System Shock was released and initially it didn't do too well. However, it would later be appreciated for all its accomplishments and how it changed the world of a first-person shooter. At the time, FPSs weren't really known for their story. In Doom, you fight a bunch of demons in hell. In Wolfenstein, you fight a lot of Indiana Jones villains. In Duke Nukem, you chew bubblegum. But System Shock rose above all those games. While it used text dialogue like those games named previously, it had an actual story that would unravel as you play. But System Shock wasn't the only first-person shooter to revolutionize storytelling in video games. What a long title. 1998, Half-Life. Initially, I was gonna speed through this game and only focus on the story, but this game is all story. The game itself is the story. Half-Life builds on the infrastructure postulated in System Shock to implement actual video game cutscenes in the game as you're playing it. At no point does the game stop you dead in your tracks and barf story on you. Even when you're trapped in a small room or behind a door, you can still move freely. Everything that happens in the story happens in the game. In a lesser game, the call to action would have been conveyed in a cutscene, but the Resonance Cascade, the big event that causes multiple different alien invasions in this universe, it doesn't just happen to you. you make it happen. You start to get connected to all the lab residents because they feel real, and even if they don't literally, they're still kind of goofy and funny. They call you by your name, they make small talk, they fight alongside you, so when they die, it hurts that little bit more. And most of the time, their deaths are actually important to your progression in the game. A lesser game would stop your momentum and make you sit through a tutorial, but Half-Life is not a lesser game. You see the mechanics of the game play out in real time. When you see your lab friends get ripped apart or exploded, you know the threat ahead of you because you saw firsthand what it can do. Half-Life tells its story through its gameplay, and it teaches mechanics to the player by conveying them in a real universe storytelling type way. And not once do you have to sit through a tutorial that you don't want to, or have to wait for characters to stop spewing random garbage at your face. You can, get this, play the video game. And with the constant upgrade of hardware, the game runs so smoothly that you barely have to worry about loading screens. You could pick up a controller at the beginning of the game and not put it down until you finish. I mean, you should get up to go pee, or shower, but to each their own. 1999 System Shock 2, they learned from their predecessor and Half-Life and managed to put together a compelling gameplay / story. System Shock 2 also does away with halting progress. The story is told through the gameplay, as the only cutscenes you see are at the very beginning and very end. Sound familiar? I know I just sang Half-Life's praises, and there is a lot to praise. There's enough mystery and intrigue left behind that people are still drafting theories about the game to this day. But aside from the mystery and the fun of the game, it's a pretty straightforward story. Not that it's bad, because it isn't. It works for that game. But System Shock 2? System Shock 2 tells a compelling narrative with an even more compelling opposing force and successfully messes with the players' heads. And it does this all without taking control away from you. This was built upon even more in the game's successor series, BioShock. Spoilers for... well, first off, all the games I already listed. I probably should have did that first. But also BioShock and also Portal. BioShock also lacks traditional cutscenes throughout the game. Creepy things happen. But you don't need a Metroid Dread cinematic to tell you what's scary. You see it. It's coming after you. Throughout the game, you hear the voice of eclectic businessman Andrew Ryan, and he asks you to do things. He asks you, would you kindly? And because it's a video game, and because the only way to progress is to do that thing, you do it. You do what's asked of you until you make your way to Andrew's office and he tells you a secret. The phrase, would you kindly, is followed you the whole game. Every time it's uttered, you do what it says. This is no accident. This is an activation phrase. And then, in a game where you normally have control over how the story is told to you, you stop. You sit. Because of those words, would you kindly? This game gives you that taste of freedom and never halts your gameplay to make you sit through a cutscene. And then, when it actually does do that, it frames it as what it is. It's a punishment. You have to sit through it, and it's not fun. God, I hate cutscenes. You see, this is how you make the player feel helpless without actually taking away agency from them. In The Last of Us 2, I know I said I was done with it, but I gotta keep talking about it. When Ellie's choking that one girl, you have to worry about your choices. Oh man, am I being a good person? But you don't make the choice to choke her. If you don't choke her, you lose the game. But there's no activation phrase, oh, the game is making you do these evil things in The Last of Us. It's just dumb. What was I talking about? You know how some choices just change the entire industry? Like one game does something so well that everyone just does that thing from then on. Mario 64 adding a free moving camera, Halo utilizing the dual stick system to traverse, Minecraft utilizing a crafting system, Breath of the Wild rewriting the book and climbing, they're all choices that change the industry. But then sometimes you come across a choice that seems equally as important, but people just don't follow it and go back to their old ways anyway. Half-Life was before my time, but when I later learned about its history, I got excited. And then confused. Because Half-Life revolutionized the way stories are told in video games, and then one game series followed in their footsteps? That just seems wrong. And now we have to sit through big hairy guy eating a burger before we get to shoot zombies for fun. Video game cutscenes, at least the way they are now in modern games, should have died off in 1998 with the release of Half-Life. But the industry was instead obsessed with graphical fidelity and wanting to make games look like movies. And when you walk down the path of story over gameplay, you get Death Stranding. You get Cyberpunk. You get that stupid f***ing cat game. God, I know it's an indie game, but oh my god. You want to know what stories compelled me as a kid playing video games? Lego Star Wars, where they don't talk, and The Subspace Emissary, where they don't talk. Two stories told with no dialogue whatsoever, and yet you could still grasp what was going on. How f***ing cool is that? And then on my DS, I played a bunch of Mario games. I didn't care about the story because the story didn't matter. I was having fun. I didn't know how to read when I got my first Pokemon game. It took me nearly a year of playing the opening of that game over and over to learn that you could save. So that was fun. And don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I don't hate storytelling in gaming. I'm not saying like, oh, every game should be Mario where there's no story. Video games can tell really compelling stories, but they can tell them without the game playing you. 2001, Half-Life Decay. Half-Life Decay is just the PS2 version of Half-Life that was released a little bit later, but it's worth noting because of the new story mode that it added. Instead of playing as Gordon shooting through corridors, two people can play as two characters, and it's more focused on puzzles and platforming than it is shooting. That sounds familiar. That's literally all I have to say about Decay. That's the only reason I brought it up. It's not even really relevant to the video. 2004. Half-Life 2. At the time, this was probably the most anticipated video game, and for good reason. Half-Life 1 revolutionized the way stories could be told in video games, and its modern sequel would have to live up to that. While Half-Life 2 has the same active cutscene as Half-Life 1, I think the best storytelling comes in through the environments. It's such a hopeless and sterile place. Your first steps off the train bring you into this Apple Macintosh 1984 ad of the man holding everybody down. Then you get to see the boring bureaucracy of fascism as you work your way through the most effective torture device known to man, the TSA. And you get to see the more alien side of your new overlords. I really love the Combine designs because they could totally pass for humans. We truly don't know what it looks like under the hood, and in a way, that makes it way scarier. The first steps outside reveal how truly vast their empire is compared to you. A little later, you come across a playground where you can hear the ghost of the kids who used to play there, which we can't even have anymore because everyone has been sterilized. This is not a Half-Life video, but it is a video about alternative forms of storytelling in video games, and I didn't really talk about visual storytelling yet, but this is it. This is the pinnacle. Half-Life 2 was a huge hit as it implemented a groundbreaking physics feature in its new custom engine. You see, the original Half-Life was built on a heavily modified Quake engine, which by the game's release was completely unrecognizable. So this time around for the sequel, they decided to make their own source engine. And you know, they put so much time and money into making this whole engine, might as well make other games for it. 2005, Narbacular Drop. The thing you need to know about Valve as a company is that they love to snatch up people from the community. They not only endorse mods, they encourage them. If you make an impressive mod of their games, or hell, even a game that is just kind of related to them, and they like it, you may just have yourself a job. Robin Walker was one of these unemployed modders. Then he made a very popular Quake mod titled Team Fortress that caught the eye of Valve HQ. Valve then hired him to make a full version of this game, but made in the original Half-Life engine. And again, it was a hit. They don't just call things classic for no reason, alright? They don't just hand those out. Then in 2005, Robin was visiting the DigiPen Institute of Technology annual career fair to assumedly do the same thing that happened to him. And he did. He came across a game titled Narbacular Drop. Narbacular Drop is a game about solving puzzles by placing portals in correct locations. And get this, you can then walk through one of the portals and come out of the other one. Genius. So this game obviously caught Robin's attention, so he talked to the staff and said, hey, you should pitch this to Valve. They'll treat you right. This could be a hit game. Because say what you will about Valve barely releasing games anymore, and maybe shutting down some other mods that they didn't have to, they're still a pretty stand-up company. Here's a list of things that Valve has never done. Implemented a battle pass system into their games, released their games unfinished, stolen breast milk from their co-workers. I hope. 2006, Half-Life 2 Episode 1. What a great year for games. Instead of taking forever to release the third sequel, or I guess it would have been the third version and the second sequel, whatever, they decided to continue Half-Life 2's story episodically. They would release additional episodes periodically to cut down on development time and keep the player coming back for more as they got heavily invested. I don't really know that much about episode 1. It's obviously the middle child of the whole episode 2 saga, so I never got to grasp it as much as the others. It exists, and it put down the groundwork for how Half-Life sequels would be released in the coming years. Well, year. 2007. Valve is at an impasse. They had a lot of projects being actively developed that we knew very little at the time, especially me, because I was 6. When are we going to continue the Half-Life saga, and what happened to that Team Fortress game you guys were working on that we saw at E3? Both of these questions and more would be answered with the Orange Box. The Orange Box is a collection of Valve games, most of which are entirely new releases. It features the already released Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 2 Episode 1, along with the new releases of Half-Life 2 Episode 2, which would end the Half-Life series on a cliffhanger for 13 years. Team Fortress 2 finally released with the brand new art direction that would explode in popularity and start off the hero shooter genre that would then be replicated by tons of companies after. And just to add another extra little gift, the 5th game in the collection was a game no one had heard of prior, and that game was Portal. The way I'm describing it, it sounds like the Orange Box was just kind of shadow dropped one day, but that's not true. Just like any other game, it had teasers and trailers and announcements. It did have a release date. The internet acts in mysterious ways, and it seems nowadays they're only ever really excited by IPs they know. That's what makes the sudden and immense popularity of Portal as a concept so strange and interesting. Because remember, Portal was lumped in a collection with 2 of the most anticipated games of that time. But after seeing the trailer and hopping on the hype train for this new innovative series, the hype for Portal reached the same level as the hype for the games people have been waiting for. And I guess it does kind of make sense. I mean, the Orange Box was already appealing to the Valve fans, so the fact that Portal shared a publishing company, a writer, a composer, and a source engine with the Half-Life series, there tends to be some overlap. By the way, one of the 2 writers of this game, Eric Wolpaw, also wrote for Psychonauts 1 and 2, which as of 2021, when I first played them, are some of my favorite platformers and maybe games ever. The more you start to recognize names behind the scenes or in the credits is when you start to really pinpoint the writers and game developers you really, really like. It's like every time I watch a cartoon with my friends, I pause the TV and look at all of them and point at the screen and was like, hey, that's great Delilah Griffin. She voices Azula and Mandy and Vicky and Daphne. Are we all caught up now? I don't know how far I am into this, but I have more to say about the writing and production and music and voice acting, but I think those praises would probably be better suited in the video game. So now, after that intro, and for however long we've been sitting here talking to each other, and by each other I mean me talking to you, I now present to you Portal. I know you guys are all gamers. I can smell you through the screen. But imagine for a second you weren't. Imagine if you didn't know anything about video games, but you still wanted to play one. We are going to treat this game like we have never picked up a controller in our lives. It opens with the classic Valve man with that iconic Half-Life sound. And then we get to the title screen. Similar to Super Metroid, it has an aura of mystery around it. It's a sterile white room with a glass box in the middle. A glass box with a bed and a toilet. Does someone live in there? How could someone survive in such horrible conditions? The ominous digitized music adds to the mundane horror of this room. You start the game and find yourself waking up in the same glass room. You're not confused of where you are, because you already know. You got to see the room from afar. I didn't mean for that to rhyme. Have you ever tried playing a modern video game with a partner or family member and they haven't really played a video game before, and it's a game where you have to look around and move with 2 sticks and they can't do both at the same time? Like, they'll move around with one stick, lift their hand off the controller, and then move around with the other, but not at the same time. I feel like I can't be the only one that's ever experienced this. The game lets you know how to move and look around, and it gives you time in this tiny nothing room to test it out. Whoa, look at me go! I'm moving and looking. Then it gives you some more controls. You can jump, which makes your sterile room that little bit more fun. By this point, even if you don't know very much about video games, you kind of want to start pushing forward, so you just start hitting random buttons in that room and picking shit up and throwing it around. And because the objects on the table are so close to you at any point in the glass room, you'll likely accidentally pick them up. You can throw them around, put some things in the toilet. It's a real laugh. What a funny game.
Hello, and again, welcome to the Aperture Science Computer Aided Enrichment Center. We hope your brief detention in the relaxation vault has been a pleasant one.
By now, you may have noticed the robotic voice speaking to you. It doesn't sound like the voice of a character, and what it's saying sounds very uniform and pre-recorded. It's like you're not the first person to be in this room. By the time you've experienced all these early controls and the voice stops talking, the first portal opens. Oh, okay. This must be what doors look like here. It's kind of futuristic. But then you see her. Who is that? I don't want to walk out there. There's another person in another glass room. But video games, like life, are all about moving forward. So you push forward and she moves too. Now this is strange. The character moves whenever I move. Maybe you try out some new moves you just learned, and when you jump, she jumps. Wait a minute. That's me. We're already searching for a lot of answers, but we can at least get a good look of what we look like. We walk through the door and she's gone. Going back and forth through the portal to test our hypothesis, that's definitely us. So what I've gleaned is walking through an orange door will put you out through a blue one, no matter where it is in the room. And congrats, you just teleported. You just walked through a portal. And this is all happening in the gameplay. Sure, some controls appear on screen and the robot voice is talking, but you, the player, everything I just said, that's not writing. You experience that as you play. As you walk out of the sterile room, the only room we've known since we started, you may notice some cameras high up on the wall, or maybe even the frosted glass windows leading into an office room. We don't know much about that pre-recorded voice, but we're definitely being watched. We make our way to the next room and the important pieces stand out. There's a big red plate with a line leading from it to the door, and if I know anything about anything, it's that I gotta press a big red button. You may not know how to press the button, but after walking over and standing on it, you'll see the door open. Unfortunately, if you walk towards the door, it'll close the second you step off. But when you get close enough to the door, this contraption will drop a cube right next to you. And like the plate, you'll want to try everything on it, and eventually hitting the action button will pick up the cube. The reason this game is so sterile, besides an important story reason, is to avoid clutter. It doesn't have as many barrels and wood pallets as Half-Life because it would take away from the puzzle. Each room only gives you exactly what you need. So you put 2 and 2 together with the only 2 things in the room and you place the cube on the plate. And you can now freely walk through the open door. Between the door and the elevator, there is this strange grid, or fizzler, that the voice warns you about. You can still freely walk through it, but it puts the idea in your head that this wall will do something eventually. That was all in the opening room. We're not even in the first chamber yet. That technically wasn't even the first level. It's the walkway to the first level. And I'm sure if you have played this game before, or any game for long enough, you may have found that explanation incredibly boring. I don't want to sit through a tutorial that long. That took forever for just the opening. We don't have to. If you're a seasoned gamer or you have played this game dozens of times like me, you can easily walk through this opening in the amount of time it took me to describe the title screen. The reason I think more games should be like Portal is that it's telling you a story, but it also taught you the basics of the game immediately as you're playing, and it never stops doing this. The door in the glass room actually opens way sooner than I described it. And the coolest thing about this is, yes, the game never stops teaching you, but it also never once feels like you're in a tutorial. We know that we can walk through one portal to get to another, but we've only seen them appear in one static place. Chamber 1 teaches us that exit portals can be moved. We are given an orange portal to walk through just like in the opening, but where the blue portal ends up changes. The blue portal cycles between 3 rooms: the room with the cube, the room with the pressure plate, and the room with the door. This test chamber not only shows you that portals can be placed in different areas, but it also lays out the solution to the puzzle right in front of you. The order is cube, plate, door. So you grab the cube, put it on the button, and exit through the door. Simple. And if you get trapped in the room because you didn't move fast enough, the portal loops fast enough back to the room that it won't even be a cause for worry.
We wanted players to feel safe while standing in a portal, so we never kill them or destroy objects within a portal that's closing. Instead, we either push or teleport objects out of a portal as it closes.
Saunter on out of the first test chamber knowing you just solved a puzzle. and your brain now knowing more about portals. Like the opening room, there is a glass wall the player can look through while waiting for the door to open. For seasoned players, the door doesn't halt your movement that much. It opens almost immediately, but it makes you wait a little bit, but you can keep moving. On the other side of the glass, we see some kind of gun. Up to this point, we know how portals work, but we don't know where they come from. What causes them to appear on walls? So on the other side of this wall, we see this gun shoot the portal on the wall. We learn that the portals, at least the blue ones, come from this gun.
In early versions of this map, playtesters would charge down the stairs without noticing what was creating the portals. We introduced a mandatory pause in the action, what we call a gate, to help ensure that players stop and notice the portal gun making the blue portal. A particle effect and a loud noise help draw their attention.
The door to the chamber opens after we've thoroughly grasped the concept, but all there is to do is to jump down. Like the room with only a plate, cube dropper, and a door, there's only one thing we can interact with in this room. This gun. Walking towards the gun will equip it on your person. It appears right in your vision just like any weapon in a first-person shooter.
These interdimensional gates have proven to be completely safe. The device, however, has not. Do not touch the operational end of the device. Do not look directly at the operational end of the device. Do not submerge the device in liquid, even partially. Most importantly, under no circumstances should you...
Something is clearly wrong. But whatever, it's just a pre-recorded voice. The game shows you how to shoot a portal by making you look at the portal shoot in a circle before we even reach there, but we still don't exactly know where they work. But that's okay, because again, we saw the gun shoot in the middle of each wall, and there's a little border for it, so that's the safest bet. The room is caked in wall-to-wall portalable walls, so the perfect place for experimentation of the new mechanic is this room. If you look up, you'll see the cameras on the wall that have been watching you this whole time. Nobody likes being watched. I wonder what would happen if I...
To ensure the safe performance of all authorized activities, do not destroy vital testing apparatus.
Oh, so I guess the pre-recorded robot voice has situation voice lines for different scenarios? You make your way to the exit like you always have and walk through the fizzler like you always have, but this time your character does a little shake and makes a noise. The only difference now is we have the gun. Something happens when we walk through this gate. Maybe something worth looking into. Maybe.
Please proceed to the chamber lock. Mind the gap.
Oh, well, I know how to cross this. This is easy. We obviously just shoot another one of our iconic blue portals and walk on over there. Oh. But what about this gap? Walking back through the portal will just take us back to where we were, and we can't jump up there. Wait a minute. What if we... Oh. For people who have played this game series before, this seems incredibly easy and, in the grand scheme of things, unimportant. But for new players, it's entirely possible that they only, up until this point, have walked through an orange portal and come out of a blue one. So how would they know that you can do it vice versa? The room is here to teach you that you can also walk through the orange portals and exit through blue.
This room was designed to make players understand that entrance and exit portals aren't tied to the color of the portal. Playtesters often assumed that orange portals were exit only, so we created this puzzle to force players to enter an orange portal.
Well, that's stupid. Who wouldn't know that? It's so easy to figure out. More people than you would think. But again, I'm going to keep sounding like a broken record. If you have played this game and you know what you're doing, you don't need to think about this. You just shoot and immediately go. It's over in a second. But for new players, the game keeps teaching you these new mechanics, and like I said, it never stops. It is a part of the game.
Well done. Remember, the Aperture Science Bring Your Daughter to Work Day is the perfect time to have her tested.
Okay. We got another classic button and door, but this time we got portals. The plate does open the door, but it's far too far to be able to reach. We can try and portal around the room, but we can't portal over by the door because of this glass wall.
For training purposes, there's generally just one correct solution to these early puzzles. The original version of this room didn't have the glass barrier. Playtesters would often stand on the button to open the door and then shoot a blue portal through the opening, bypassing the box entirely. Since this puzzle was meant to illustrate the relationship between boxes and buttons, that solution, while clever, was a failure. So we added the glass barrier to prevent it. Later in the game, however, the puzzles become more open-ended.
This is also the point where we learn that we can see through glass, but we can't shoot through it. Again, seems kind of obvious, but it's our first opportunity to have both the portal gun and a glass wall. Once you try walking towards the door, you see it close immediately. You can't make it. But at the same time, the cube dropper drops another cube. Unfortunately, it drops right into this hole before you can grab it. You can't get another cube, so the only way to solve the puzzle is to get that cube, so you shoot a portal down there. Or, if you're very bold, you'll jump right down, learning that the character you play as doesn't take any fall damage. As far as we know right now, there's no death in this game whatsoever. You can't jump back out, so the only way to get out with the cube is to shoot a portal on the wall or the floor? When we have the portal gun, you can shoot anywhere that has a white surface. But also up until this point, we've only ever needed to shoot on a wall, so we would need to learn that we can shoot on the floor. The first thing we see is this cube hitting the floor, forcing us to have to look down into this hole, putting the idea in your head to shoot directly down, trying to teach you that you can in fact shoot a portal on the floor. It also helps that this floor looks the same as the walls we've been shooting. You put the cube on the plate and then walk through the door, another chamber solved.
As part of our required test protocol, we will not monitor the next test chamber. You will be entirely on your own. Good luck.
Chamber 5 is doubling what we already know. We're on our own now. The voice says we won't be monitored, so I guess it's time to test our skills. There's 2 plates now, however, they don't do different things. Instead, they both open the door, but they need to be pressed at the same time. And considering we just got out of Chamber 4, we check the hole again, and lo and behold, there is a cube down there. You repeat the process by shooting a portal and walking through it, but this time you end up on a raised platform.
The modular approach we settled on makes it look plausible that the chambers can reform dynamically on these pistons.
You could put the cube on one of the plates and stand on the other one, but then there's no way to walk through the door. You can actually shoot a portal in there, but you can't get in through the other portal due to the raised platform. If the other chambers have had 1 plate and 1 cube, and this chamber has 2 plates, there must be 2 cubes. There is another cube on the other raised platform, but there's no portal there. But remember what we learned in the chamber with the large gaps. We can go through orange portals first and end up where we shoot. So we get up on the raised platform and then shoot a portal on the other one, grab the cube and put it on the plate, solving the chamber.
As part of a required test protocol, our previous statement suggesting that we would not monitor this chamber was an outright fabrication.
We already felt as though they weren't to be trusted, but now we've seen it in action. However, the chamber isn't over. Now we're in a room with a glass ceiling. A literal glass ceiling. And remember, we can't shoot through glass. What we can do is shoot on the walls and fall through the orange portal. There's no one way to play this game correctly. Your gaming experience is not universal. I'm laying out the way the game kind of leads you, but it's not a sure thing. In the previous chamber, I mentioned that the player would likely shoot on the ground and earlier learn that there's no fall damage, but that's not a sure thing. They could have just shot right at the cube. In this room, you have to fall through the portal no matter what you do, teaching you by force. And if that isn't just the meaning of aperture science, I don't know what is. Chamber 6 implements a new mechanic, these bouncing ball things. At the start of all the chambers, there has been a little warning about potential dangers. Up until now, it's just been cube-related head trauma, but in this one we see a new potential danger, getting whacked by a ball. But we also see this ball going in some kind of catcher? The catcher, which is present in the test chamber.
While safety is one of many Enrichment Center goals, the Aperture Science high-energy pellet seen to the left of the chamber can and has caused permanent disabilities such as vaporization. Please be careful.
Like I said, danger. The ball bounces back and forth between the cannon and the closed orange portal. Okay, so we need to send the ball through the portal. That's what it's telling us. We can't move the orange portal. Well, from the warning we looked at earlier, and considering it's the only other thing in the room, we know the ball needs to go in this catcher, and we know we can shoot on the ceiling. What actually helps to push us in the direction in this chamber is that a lot of the walls are black and sharp, and you cannot shoot portals on them.
To make puzzles deeper than just teleporting to the exit, we had to include surfaces that won't hold a portal, which are formally introduced here. We experimented with several surface designs before we settled on this one, whose visual noise and reflectivity make it easy to identify at a distance.
So you kind of have to shoot at the ceiling. There's not a lot of other options. They also do this so you don't accidentally shoot the ball towards you and kill yourself. So why don't we stand on it and then look up? But also let's move out of the way so we don't die tragically.
Unbelievable. You.
Subject name here.
Must be the pride of.
Subject hometown here.
Oh, I'm not special. We just learned how the balls work, but let's put in another test. We get a very similar bounce puzzle, but this time the orange portal is the one under the catcher. Okay, I get this. We saw this in the gap. I probably should have started calling that one chamber something other than the gap, because unfortunately that name is currently in use. Ironically, the real-life store, The Gap, is the only place we can shoot portals in our universe. Just nobody knows that, because nobody goes to The Gap. Last time the ball was bouncing off the portal and didn't leave any marks, but when it bounces off white walls, it leaves this burnt black mark, showing us the perfect place to shoot our portal to solve the puzzle. That's a lot of P's. Or at least the first part, because now we have to get on this moving platform we activated. We can't jump up there, so let's take a look at our surroundings. This section of the room with the moving platform is caked with these sharp black walls, and we know we can't shoot them, except for right above it, where the white wall extends. We know from the glass ceiling, literal glass ceiling, that we can jump down into portals and fall through other ones, so let's do that to get on this moving platform.
Originally, these scaffolds ran on electrified tracks, but crafty playtesters would hop along the rails to the exit, bypassing the puzzle entirely. We tried to solve this by killing players as soon as they touched the rails. That solution ended up being too much of an overcorrection, as even skilled playtesters were getting frustrated by these one-hit kills in the more complex puzzles later in the game. Making the scaffolds run along immaterial beams of light solved both problems.
Holding that thought, this is my favorite video game series. There's no such thing as a perfect video game. If you look hard enough at any game, you will find flaws. It's really just a matter of how much they matter. I love this game, if you couldn't tell by the college thesis I'm writing about it, but the only part, and it's very little, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention it, that I don't love about this game is when I replay it and I get to this part and you have to wait for the platform. Because that's not a puzzle. You're not solving anything. You're just waiting, and I detest waiting. If you couldn't already tell by the video you're watching, the whole video game cutscene and hating waiting thing, the Venn diagram's like a circle. The immediate solution that comes to mind is that you only move the platform as soon as the player lands on it, but then the player, if they're new, wouldn't really know that the platform can move. So the way to fix this, at least I believe, is have the platform start on the other side, so by the time you shoot the portal, you're gonna land on it when it comes to you, and you don't have to wait. Yeah, Valve, fix your decade-old game. But what do I know? I'm not a game developer. I'm just the guy who ate cake out of the trash that one time. Shoot the portal and you have to wait for the platform because you can't stand on the track. Land on the platform, ride it over, jump over a tiny, tiny gap, and take the elevator. The warning says that the water is dangerous and that we definitely should not drink it. Do not drink the poisonous liquid. This is the first big brush the player has with danger.
Please note that we have added a consequence for failure. Any contact with the chamber floor will result in an unsatisfactory mark on your official testing record, followed by death. Good luck.
The stakes have never been higher. So we see a room with no floor and a sea of gross brown sludge. It's good that we have this guardrail here to keep us safe. We see an orange portal get shot over there and we have access to a wall, so let's just do this and run right through it. Ah. Yes, real handy of them to use this opportunity to teach me how to crouch, but it's okay because you spawn right back at the railing. I guess death is just a minor setback. That's good to know. See? We're learning. So we shouldn't walk through this portal. What we can do is use our portal to try and solve the ricochet puzzle first. We have two important marks on the white walls. The spot the energy ball bounces off is marked with a black spot, and the light from the catcher we need to get the ball in shines across from the catcher. So we need to get the ball to come through a portal aligned with that light. Only problem is the ball isn't bouncing off the orange portal. It's bouncing off this white wall. This is where we have to learn to shoot portals on the fly. Get the ball through by shooting the portal where the black mark is, then before it bounces back into the orange portal, shoot the blue portal where the light is.
Even though layering player training was a design goal from the start, we still ended up introducing some concepts too quickly. For instance, this used to be the first energy ball redirection puzzle. Playtesting revealed that this puzzle introduced too many new concepts at once, which ended up frustrating a lot of playtesters. In response, we inserted 2 test chambers before this one to make the energy ball redirection training more gradual.
Again, and I'm making assumptions about you guys that you're going to complain like, ooh, why does this matter? This is so easy. I need to keep saying this over and over again. It's possible the first time someone plays this is their first experience with having to shoot portals quickly. Because before it was very lax. There were very little stakes. Now, if the ball comes through and you don't shoot the portal in time, it's going to go back to where it came from. Now that the ball is out of play, we can walk through the blue portal on the wall next to us. Then shoot another one after walking through, remember? The gap. And then, remembering another thing we were just taught, wait for the moving platform. All these mechanics are important and will return in a later, higher stakes area. It's important to introduce stuff like this in a lower stakes environment so they're free to test it out in a low stakes area. That's why I never liked school, because how they tested you by what you know is be like, hey, we're just gonna figure out what you know. This is also 90% of your grade. Why am I talking about school? I'm like an adult now.
The Enrichment Center regrets to inform you that this next test is impossible. Make no attempt to solve it.
Okay, so about that. Portal on a raised platform, cube falls from dropper. There's this other room separated by a fizzler, which is how we learn a lot about this fizzler. We can't tape cubes through it, and they destroy our portals. This chamber actually has a pretty big problem, but I'm not certain if it's intentional or not. Either this game is genius, or I'm going insane.
The Dean is a genius. He has to be. If he isn't, I've given almost 2 weeks of my life to an idiot. That is unacceptable. Therefore, the Dean is a genius, and I will die protecting his vision.
The way to solve it is to shoot a portal through this small hole to the other room, and then take the cube through the portal and solve the puzzle. However, this hole is perfectly cube-shaped, so the average player would want to put the cube through it.
The arch.
The arch. The arch.
You guessed it.
The arch.
It goes in the square hole.
And by average player, I mean me, the first time I played it, and the second time I played it, and I think the third because I forgot.
The Enrichment Center apologizes for this clearly broken test chamber.
This is also your introduction to head trauma. I listened to the director's commentary because I think it gives a lot of insight about the game, and also if you like game design, it's a lot of fun to listen to, and it's very easy to listen to. They don't mention this cube hole at all in the director's commentary, but the voiceover makes a note to call this chamber impossible, so I still don't know if it's intentional or not. Maybe they realized after, so they added the voice line to egg the player on, but if they noticed this before, why wouldn't they just fix it? Make the hole smaller, or make it like a circle or something.
Wait now, and cake will be served immediately.
Oh boy, I love cake. Sorry, I know this video is supposed to be me talking about these are my favorite games and the greatest games ever made, but this is how I show my love. By bitching. You think I mercilessly tear Star Wars apart and always talk about how dumb Star Wars is because I hate Star Wars? Ha! You got another thing coming.
Fantastic. You remained resolute and resourceful in an atmosphere of extreme pessimism.
Chamber 10, we start very low to the ground with a platform we can't reach in front of us. This may be one of the few test chambers where the voice actually explains how to solve it. Unfortunately...
Hello again. To reiterate, previous one. Momentum.
Okay, well, I think I heard the word momentum at the end of that, and checking the danger sign will show the test subject flying through the air. I don't know where the orange portal is, but when in doubt, shoot your gun. Whoa, who's up there? Guess I should start looking up and behind me. Also, wow, because of how high the portal was, I was able to make this gap. When you walk in the next room, you hear the portal be created, and because it was behind and above last time, we look exactly there, and there it is. The room is covered in black walls, except for down there. So let's get down there and then jump through a ground portal. I mean, it's the only thing we can do. Wait a minute, that made us fling way farther. Wait another minute. Flinging subject, momentum, higher portal. What would happen if I put the portal down first and then jumped into it?
Spectacular. You appear to understand how a portal affects forward momentum, or to be more precise, how it does not.
Holy shit. We continue into a room much bigger than the other two and then see the white walls move above us. The orange portal is already below us, so if we're to do what we did last time, we're gonna have to shoot up there. We fling ourselves again, and then the walls start to move even closer. While they do that, the portal disappears. And this makes sense as a story thing, but also development. Moving a portal along an axis was probably too daunting for the time, and quite honestly, probably too daunting for today, but it also makes game mechanic sense. Well, the orange portal is in the same place, but the blue one was moved, so we should probably shoot another blue on the new, now closer wall. We jump through the orange portal again, do a nice little spin, and land right in front of the chamber door. This game has taught us a lot of video game mechanics, but I think it just taught us about real-world momentum.
Using gravity to fall into one portal so that you come rocketing out the other portal, a skill we call flinging, was another difficult concept to train. We designed a specific visual cue, a pushed-out concrete block with checkerboard tile above a pit, to indicate to players that it's time to use the fling maneuver. Repeated several times, this cue helps players associate pushed-out concrete slabs with flinging, in much the same way that players learn to associate cubes with buttons.
And just like balls, plates, and cubes, momentum will come back later with more force. Can you tell I don't know a lot about math? Like the previous test chambers with glass walls, you can immediately start the puzzle if you want to, but if you stay back and watch, you'll catch some crucial details. We have another spinning portal gun shooting alternating portals like in the early test chambers, but this time it's over a deadly sludge pit, and this sign will tell us that there are danger balls afoot. It's something we already know, but with the stakes raised much higher. A new mechanic introduced in this chamber is the button. Okay, well, I guess that's actually not new. You may notice if you go back through this video is that I've been kind of stumbling over myself to call these things plates, because I always call them buttons because they're big red buttons, but there's another thing in the game that's also called a button, so this is technically a plate, but it doesn't sound right. You just push this one with the action button instead of standing on it, and because of that, it will stay pushed for a little while even after you aren't standing or near it. The button opens this door with a visible white wall. We know that the orange portal will eventually loop back around to us, and up until this point, we can only shoot blue portals, and because it's tied to the button, the door is on a timer, so as it starts to close, you realize you're losing your opportunity. Nothing is telling you to shoot a portal inside there, but it's what most players do because they don't want to have to go back and open the door with the button again.
Originally, a weighted button was used to open the far door, but playtesters so strongly associated boxes with buttons that they'd get stuck searching hopelessly for a box. We changed the big button to a pedestal-mounted push button, thus removing the box association, but playtesters still had trouble realizing they needed to shoot a portal through the door. Adding a ticking timer sound when the door was open cued players that the puzzle expected them to act during that time, which solved the problem.
Walking through the orange portal into the secret room will reveal a ricocheting ball. We know this song and dance by now. Before even knowing what it does or where it goes, you know to put your portal on the black mark. And by the time you realize there's a catcher across from the portal, it's already done. However, we don't just get to move on to the next test chamber. If you remember, the last time we saw a portal gun shooting and spinning, we were able to pick it up. So what happens if we go over to this one?
The device has been modified so that it can now manufacture two linked portals at once. As part of an optional test protocol, we are pleased to present an amusing fact. The device is now more valuable than the organs and combined incomes of everyone in.
Subject hometown, here.
In contrast with the last couple of levels that were full of sharp black walls, this chamber is full of white walls to shoot portals on. So before we move on, the game gives us an area to experiment with placing two portals. That being said, we don't actually have to learn that much more about portals. By this point in the game, even before being able to shoot both, we have thoroughly grasped the concept of blue and orange portals, that we can go through one, come out the other, and vice versa, how momentum works with them. But it's still nice to have a target to shoot. To end the test chamber, we use the new button again and shoot our way out of the testing room. The danger sign shows cube-related danger and more momentum.
Get ready to fling yourself. Fling into space.
Alright, I think I get it. It's the momentum puzzle from before, but this time we place both portals. And just like last time, there's a white surface down here and one up there, so let's shoot them and launch ourselves. Once we get up to a higher platform, we see that there's another white surface higher than the original. The cool thing about this room, and I guess all the other momentum rooms prior, is that it only has this one hole. There are 4 separate flings you have to pull off, and they all use the same pit. So assuming you don't move your portal after shooting down there the first time, half of your work is already finished for you.
Player training doesn't always stick, especially after the introduction of a big new concept. For instance, after they had acquired the fully powered portal device, playtesters often forgot about the fling maneuver. Since it's such an important skill, this puzzle is designed to reintroduce the idea of flinging.
We know from the danger sign and the sound it makes that there's a cube we gotta get, and a pressure plate right here that we need to put it on. This is a simple puzzle, cube on plate. I got this. There's a white surface right here we can shoot, but then it moves. It tilts itself at an angle. Now we've learned by now that we can shoot on walls, ceilings, and floors, but they were all flat. This angle is entirely new. You try and shoot it instinctively because you're a curious little cat, and learn that you can shoot a portal on the slanted one. We know where the other portal is. There's only one pit in this room, and we know we can't take fall damage. We might as well jump. I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna keep saying it over and over until you guys get the point. I love Portal, it is my favorite game series, and it's, for a lot of reasons, connected to Half-Life, and Half-Life, like Portal, lied dormant for a long while. Until recently, it had a VR game to reinvigorate the series, and as much as I would love more Portal, I think playing Portal in VR would kill me. Grab the cube, put it on the button, do another big fling, walk through the door, tale as old as time. We learned about momentum earlier, but now with the implementation of tilted angles, things are gonna get a little bit crazy. I sound like my high school math teacher. Ooh, do I sense a little bit of character in there? We start the chamber in a small, simple room.
Now that you are in control of both portals, this next test could take a very, very long time. If you become lightheaded from thirst, feel free to pass out. An intubation associate will be dispatched to revive you with peptic salve and adrenaline.
Letting us test the waters of 2 portals with a simple test. There's a cube on a railing we can't reach by jumping, and a pressure plate we need to use to open the door up above. The room is covered in white walls, so let's just shoot you there, down here, and then go up and grab it. Putting the cube on the plate will open up the door, which we can now also reach because we're there. And holy shit. Now this room seems very daunting for first-time players considering it's the biggest room we've seen so far, at least that we've seen all of it, but once you actually go through the test chamber, you realize it's actually very linear. The puzzle leads you through itself. The most immediate danger is this energy ball, so let's get rid of that. We see where the catcher is reflecting and where the ball is ricocheting, and now that we have both portals, we can solve this ourselves. When the ball goes in the hole, this platform with the cube starts moving. All the moving platforms above our jump height up to this point, we've had to use portals on the ceiling. The few black walls in this room line the ceiling except for this middle section, so we can jump down just like we have. While up on the platform, we see the other raised platforms both have plates on them, and now that we have a cube, we can push one. We get to these plates the same way we got to the moving platform. It's the same thing. Using a cube for one and standing on the other, the door opens, but with no fizzler, so we can shoot through and let the door close. And it doesn't matter because we have our own door. We can shoot both portals. Doors can't stop us anymore.
A problem we came across with virtually any puzzle involving boxes and doors was that the players could portal the boxes to the other side of the door, thereby trapping themselves in a room with buttons but no boxes. We set up special triggers to detect and handle these cases, and then added the box delivery tubes to ensure players could always be supplied with the required tools.
This chamber goes from ball to conveyor belt to cube to plate so fast that you forget you're even solving a puzzle. It just feels like you're going through a Mario level left to right.
As part of a previously mentioned required test protocol, we can no longer lie to you. When the testing is over, you will be missed.
Ah. Now what do you mean by that? This danger sign is the most lit up we've ever seen. I am concerned. The chamber starts with a button to our right and a pit to our left. It's also got this raised platform in the middle we can't reach yet. Standing on the plate won't let us reach the door, so our only recourse is to go left. A staircase comes up from the ground and leads up in the right direction, but the dangerous feeling still comes through.
We designed this room to draw the player's eyes to the box. The light from the observation room casts horizontal shadows that point at the box, which is directly lit by a warm light from the ceiling. This warm light helps the box stand out against the predominantly cool test chamber lighting. The varying size squares of the off-limit surface also help direct the player's attention upward.
I guess now would be a good time to mention the music of this game. We were just told we'd be missed, and now we're faced with a test chamber full of potential dangers as the room morphs around us. It's unsettling. If the snowy glass and security cameras weren't enough to make you feel uneasy, the soundtrack definitely will. But we can't worry about how alone we feel right now. We've got a test to solve. We see another ball catcher shining its light on the ceiling, so we gotta bring an energy ball back here. There's a cube surrounded by black walls we can't shoot, but there is a white wall right across from it high up. And momentum has saved our dicks and pussies a couple times now, so let's test it out. Why did I write that? Well, that didn't work. But it's really the only thing we can do in this room, so what are we missing? Maybe shooting the other portal on the ground will give us more momentum? Wait a minute, we can shoot portals anywhere on this floor. When we shoot out of the portal, we land on the same floor. And we learned in a room a couple rooms back that sometimes you have to shoot portals under strict time crunches. What would happen if we shot a portal right where we're about to land before we even hit the floor? It worked! So now we know, because of a simple little experimentation room, that we can keep that momentum going. We can chain our portal flings together to fling ourselves even farther. So let's take this cube over to the plate and open this door, and it seems like we're done. I mean, in any other chamber, this would be the exit. But what about that ball catcher? And what about the raised platform? Walking into this new room, there's a black hallway separating the first and second sections. We're faced with what looks like a platforming section, with an energy ball bouncing in the target room. Throughout the game so far, they've made us jump over little gaps, seemingly for no reason, but there was a reason. This is the reason. This is this game's MO. Introduce a mechanic in a low-stakes environment, and then as the player starts to grasp it a little better, turn up the heat. I look really creepy when I... And now our punishment for not making the jump is a painful death. You can platform across, but you could also just shoot a portal over. There's no one way to solve a problem. Peeking in the room, we see the ball and the wall it's bouncing off of. We know now to shoot at the soot without asking questions. And now, because one of our portals is already used up, we have to jump across. This is the biggest test chamber so far, but after shooting the black mark, we have all the puzzle pieces. We know we need to get the ball in the catcher, and one of our portals is already placed right in front of the shooter. All we have to do now is shoot the other one above the catcher. But we do have to walk all the way back, so hope you remember which portal you didn't use. There's a lot of stuff in this game that seems like common knowledge as a video game mechanic, but you can never be too sure. Like, of course there's no distance cap on where you can shoot portals, but up until now, portals have only been shot in the same room as each other. This chamber is important in letting the player know that your portal won't go away just from walking far away from it. The Fizzler will destroy it though. Interesting to note, once the puzzle is solved, you don't need the cube on the plate anymore, so you can take it up with you, but it will then be destroyed by the Fizzler. Oh my god, it's terrible. But I'm glad no person got hurt. That's just a cube. It doesn't have a soul. Also, if you really want to, you can take the cube into the second room and then place 2 portals, which absolutely breaks the door because they didn't want to trap you in there.
The Enrichment Center is committed to the well-being of all participants. Cake and brief counseling will be available at the conclusion of the test. Thank you for helping us help you help us all.
They said they legally can't lie, right? Like this game is legally binding. We start in a big room divided by a glass wall below and a fizzler above. We can't shoot a portal through the fizzler or through glass, and there's a white surface high on the wall and below us, so we know what we must do. The only way over there is to fling yourself, but just like the previous chamber, one fling isn't enough. You need to shoot another portal mid-air to chain the flings together to gain more momentum. Like I said before, training wheels on, training wheels off. That being said, while it is harder, the stakes in this chamber are actually pretty low. Even the energy ball later on is too high to get hit by.
This puzzle requires players to redirect an energy ball through multiple portal placements. The multiple steps cause many early playtesters to panic and accidentally redirect a ball right into themselves, with deadly results. We redesigned the test chambers so that portals can only be placed in the top half of the room, which solved the problem by generally leaving players out of the ball's reach.
I mean, you can place a portal to get hit by it, if you're some kind of pain freak, but that's not what we're testing for. Speaking of the energy ball, we have 2 rooms that we cannot shoot portals into from where we are. As we walk in though, we do see that the energy ball can pass through fizzlers. We know where to shoot one portal, right where the black mark is, but the other one is a little more confusing. I mean, we know where the catcher is, but if we walk through this fizzler, then the portal we have on the black mark will get deleted. The best we can do is shoot another portal adjacent to the black mark so that it shoots through the other fizzler. In the room with the orange portal gun, we were taught that sometimes you have to shoot portals really fast. In the rooms after that, through fling puzzles, we were shown that sometimes portals have to be changed quickly on the fly. The solution to this section is to let the ball pass through the portal to the other fizzler section, then walking through the fizzler to get rid of the portal that it just came through. After that, it's just a simple energy ball puzzle. Put a portal on the black mark and put the other one on the orange light. Just try not to get hit by it, you freak. Moving on to the next room of the chamber with the raised platform, we have a room of half black and half white. Shooting a portal above and below won't fling you far enough, and you can't shoot right as you land from here because you can't shoot on the black surfaces. Luckily, there's a secret side room you can use to get a little more pep in your step. Then you just have to shoot a portal where you land and launch yourself farther than you ever have. The room after this is a combination of test chambers so far. We have an energy ball puzzle, but the only way to get into each room is to do a double fling. Once we're in the room, we're faced with a worse horror than we've ever seen in these hollowed halls. Angled walls. I'd be lying if I said that this part of the game didn't take me the longest when I first played it. Talk about your learning experience. While you can place your portals on tilted walls, you actually need to use the walls the balls hit after ricocheting off the tilted ones. Maybe next time, boys. That being said, there's probably, honestly, more than one way to solve this puzzle. I have seen people solve this puzzle by accident by setting the ball all over the room. And like I always say, to each their own. I'm generalizing best I can to describe how well the game teaches the player the mechanics of the game, but it's not a universal experience. I'm not 100% correct. Everyone, the way they play is going to be different. It's possible that you aren't a seasoned gamer, but you still didn't experience any of this the way I described it the first time. You may have just accidentally stumbled across all the mechanics. But if you think about it, that's kind of the same thing. You're not knowingly realizing any of this, but you are learning the mechanics the way the game is teaching you. You may not have noticed it, but your brain did. I can't do the voice. It's also possible that this game tried its best to teach you and you still struggled. Everyone plays differently. But isn't that what makes Portal so much better? I feel like that's the point I've been trying to make. We didn't all watch the same static cutscene or all have to sit through the same wall of tutorial text. We experienced it all differently. We got to learn the game in the way we like. God, I love this f***ing game series. I have a problem. The next part of this puzzle is a conveyor belt of platforms moving towards you, but not back. So you have to strategically place portals to fight against the tide of platforms to make your way into the next part of the chamber. Seems like this might be super crucial later, but I don't know. I am just a straw man created for this argument that doesn't know anything about video games. I've noticed that when I say stuff, I look away from the camera and move my hands like this, like I'm a child in like an 8th grade play. Damn, these chambers are getting longer and longer. We take a slow platform up to the button. Pushing the platform will drop one of the walls in front of the ball catcher. And I see another button over there, but this platform is way too slow, so let's take a portal. Hitting the other button will open the other wall blocking the catcher. Unfortunately, these buttons are on timers, so we need to act fast. You could accidentally get this your first try, but even if you mess up, you already shot a portal on both sides to get over here. So the puzzle is set up the best way already once you're here. Let's quickly hit the first button, then go back through the portal to hit the other. Now that the catcher is open, we have to do what we've been doing this whole time. Shoot one portal on the black mark and shoot one on the orange light. If timed correctly, the ball will enter the hole to solve the test chamber. Dear God.
Did you know you can donate one or all of your vital organs to the Aperture Science Self-Esteem Fund for Girls? It's true.
This place is fucked up. So far we faced killer energy balls, toxic goo, potential head trauma, all with different raising levels of danger. I've been trying to talk through this as fast as I could, but gameplay wise, we're like maybe an hour or so, maybe a little bit over into it by now, and this whole time, the only other voice we've heard is this robotic voice that's been hounding us the whole time, mocking us as we die occasionally. Since we woke up in this terrifying world, that is the only thing we've heard. We're trapped in this creepy, sterile world while constantly being bombarded with horrors, and the worst part is we're utterly alone. I mean, we are, right? We are alone.
Due to mandatory scheduled maintenance, the appropriate chamber for this testing sequence is currently unavailable. It has been replaced with a live fire course designed for military androids. The Enrichment Center apologizes for the inconvenience and wishes you the best of luck.
Oh, I didn't mention it before because it wasn't really important to this essay, but I am normally very terrible at shooters. It's ironic that my favorite game series and favorite games ever are both technically first-person shooters because my friends will tell you I'm a terrible shot. Yeah, I'm a little bit of a singer. Go to google.com and check out Hamilton. I guarantee you're gonna like what you see. So this test chamber isn't for portals, it's for miniature combat. And because of that, it's surrounded by these adorable little robots. Aww. Jesus Christ! I imagine making these turrets cute and likable was a conscious decision. I mean, they gave them voices. They ask where you are and sound really distressed. Once you take them out, they'll tell you that they forgive you and that they don't blame you. My heart hurts. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. We get our first taste of what the turrets are capable of by seeing them aim a laser at you and machine gun shoot high-speed bullets at a glass wall. This lets us know that the turrets can't shoot through everything, and that they will kill you. And we also get to start right behind another to fiddle around with. I'm sure I could have worded that better. Well, we know it can't see, so it can't shoot us. There's only so many things we can do in this game. We can shoot it, but our gun makes a different kind of hole, so no dice. Walking into it will reveal that it isn't staked into the ground. It's a movable object, just like the cubes, radios, and cameras. So let's move it. All right, it's getting angry at me. Let's put it down.
Shutting down.
I think I killed it. Okay, when I said let's put it down, I meant physically put it down, not like how you put down a dog. That turret was in a black wall room. This next one is in a white room. And we know by now that white room means portals. The turrets take a little time to start shooting after you're in their sights, which gives us enough time to shoot a portal behind them and then put them down. Like a dog. Remember when I said there's no one right way to solve a puzzle? Well, you can shoot a portal under the turret to make it fall over itself, but it's a pretty precise shot to take. I'm not gonna say it again. You guys are gonna make fun of me. I'm not. My friends will tell you I'm a terrible shot. I hate this. No, put your phones away. Don't post this. If Tyler sees this, I'm gonna be kicked out of the frat for sure. So then we make our way over to this room and what the hell is that? Why is this part of the wall jutting out? Is this part of the test? Walking into this secret room, the unsettling music kicks in and we see the scrambled ramblings of a madman. The cake is a lie, 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 the cake is a lie. Now, I know in the year of our rabbit 2023, the cake is a lie is just a dumb, outdated, overran internet meme, and it spawned because of the popularity of this game, but I'm gonna say it, in the context of this game, it's pretty unsettling. Hot take of the year, the cake is a lie is actually scary. But seriously, up until this point, the robot voice talking down to us has lied, but the fact that this person, who seems to be a previous test subject, felt the need to tell us specifically that the cake is a lie. Because come on. I mean, if you're playing through the game, it keeps promising you cake, and you start to not trust it, we know the cake is a lie. Alright? We assumed there wasn't gonna be any cake. And we knew it was a bit, a joke. But That's what I'm saying, is like, what is important about warning us about the cake? We knew there wasn't going to be any cake, but if this crazy rambling previous test subject felt the need to write it, that we need to know it, it's important, what are we going to get instead of cake? Along with the scratch marks to count the days, we see a diagram of some ball thing being tossed into a pit. Could it be the energy balls from before, or something else? The next part of the turret chamber would be hard, but our new crazy friend has marked the parts of the ceiling that should be portaled to drop cubes on the turret heads. I'm not sure how we got up there, but I appreciate it. For the first time since we loaded up this game, we don't feel utterly alone. It's not necessarily a good thing though, but we do distrust the robot voice even more than we already did. We figure out that the cubes can block the shots of the turrets by making a safe leap in logic. It's like Pokemon. Turrets are weak to cubes. Speaking of which, we find another den in this chamber. Whoever was here last to make these markers must have really had a thing for these cubes. It's also strange that these aren't even allowed here, right? Like, there's cameras all around. Who's cleaning these chambers? And why is this one in such disarray? Kill all the turrets and feel a little bad because they have personalities and presumably souls.
Well done, Android. The Enrichment Center once again reminds you that Android Hell is a real place where you will be sent at the first sign of defiance.
Wait a minute. Am I not human? Android Hell. Well, I mean, if I'm an android and I knock those things over, it wasn't just a human kicking over robots. That was murder. That was fratricide. Why are you saying this to me? Did the voice see you? In the secret room? Can you see me?
The vital apparatus vent will deliver a weighted companion cube.
What's a companion cube? Am I supposed to care about another worthless cube just because it has a name and... Aw, this one has hearts on it. It loves me. I must take this thing everywhere I go. It is my best and only friend. There are platforms we can't reach, so we have to step on the companion cube to climb our way out. Because that's what friends are for. We're faced with thin corridors with deadly energy balls bouncing off the walls, and you can't duck under them. I've tried. We learned in the last chamber that the cubes can block turret fire, so it's not a huge leap that they can probably reflect energy balls. And they can. This cube has now not only raised us up, but it's also saved our lives 2 times over. And there's another hallway with another energy ball. Getting past those thin corridors, we get to this big room. Before we start, we should take a look around. There's another den in here. Oh yeah, whoever this is really, really likes cubes. But what's special about the companion cube? Oh man, if I was really bad at reading subtext and I knew nothing about Portal, I'd maybe make a theory video about how maybe the cube actually has human parts in it. But I won't. The calendar is for 1983. Either we're more in the past than we thought, or whoever was in this room is now long gone. There's also a lot of ripped off cameras in this room. She's watching you. Oh. Okay, but who's she? Is it talking about the voice? I guess it does sound like a girl, but it's not actually alive. Is it? Well, we don't have time to unpack all that. Let's finish the test. There's a room with 2 doors and 2 plates. We kept the companion cube on us because it's our friend, and we've done this rodeo before. We have to stand on one and put the cube on the other. That opens both the doors to this ball catcher, so we have to get an energy ball down here and keep the doors open. There's a white wall right across from the door, but we have to go back to get it. The easiest thing we can do right now is the little room with the shooter and the catcher. There's no white walls, so we can't shoot portals, but we just learned that cubes can block energy balls. Maybe they can redirect them. Epic. Shooting our way up to the other energy balls will reveal yet another catcher. So let's do this one before the door one. We know how ricocheting walls work. We've used them before. So let's shoot a portal here because we know we'll bounce off the light and land in the catcher. And then, just like we always do, shoot the other one on the black mark. And that part's done. Once an energy shooter has shot a ball that goes into a catcher, it stops shooting. But luckily for us, there's 2 of them. So we shoot a portal on the other black mark, shoot another one on the jutting wall, put the cube on the high up button that we can't reach, and we have to stand on this button plate, but we don't want to get hit by the ball, so we have to wait for it to get right in front of the door, then stand on the plate to solve the puzzle. Then we just take our new best friend across these raised platforms and continue our adventure through the facility.
The Enrichment Center reminds you that the weighted companion cube cannot speak. In the event that the weighted companion cube does speak, the Enrichment Center urges you to disregard its advice.
Oh man, if I really knew nothing about Portal, I would definitely make a theory video on how the cube is in fact alive. But I won't. We get to the end of the chamber.
You did it. The weighted companion cube certainly brought you good luck. However, it cannot accompany you for the rest of the test and, unfortunately, must be euthanized. Please escort your companion cube to the Aperture Science Emergency Intelligence Incinerator.
What? I can't kill my best friend. We had such good times together. Remember the time they helped me get up on the platforms? Or the time they blocked the energy balls? Or the time they redirected the energy balls? Or the time they stood on the plate? Or the time we jumped across the platforms? Or the time we walked into this room and she told us we had to incinerate it? Similar to BioShock, there's nothing you can do. The only way to progress the game is to hit this button and then throw your new best friend into the incinerator. And no matter how much time you take to mourn, the voice will always say,
You euthanized your faithful companion cube more quickly than any test subject on record. Congratulations.
Oh man. That must mean that there's actual human people in there. And not the most obvious thing to glean from this is that people in isolated conditions will find companionship in objects that aren't even alive. Hey, but that's just a theory. Hey, remember that game theory video where he said Pyro was gay because his finger was shorter than like a ring finger? Before, the voice was not to be trusted and antagonistic. Now she's actively working against us. She made me kill my best and only friend, and she must have done something similar to the other test subject to make them go crazy like that.
We designed this hall so that players had to use a box as a shield, but many playtesters read it as an avoid the energy ball timing puzzle and simply left the box behind. We solved this in large part by having the AI talk about the box. A lot. Once the dialogue went in, playtesters went from routinely abandoning the box to never wanting it to leave their side. Since we weren't going to make the players lug a box around for the rest of the game, we had a scene at the end of the level where the players are forced to kill the box.
I'm starting to think there may be no cake after all.
The experiment is nearing its conclusion. The Enrichment Center is required to remind you that you will be baked, and then there will be cake.
But on the off chance there is, I do really want that cake, you know? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Chamber 18 feels like a bunch of unrelated test chambers slammed together, but it does utilize everything we've learned. We have to use momentum and the double fling to clear this gap, and what's this hole? This place looks way different from the other dens. It doesn't look like anyone lived here. It just looks like the innards of the facility are being pulled back. I'm definitely not supposed to be in here. But there's not much I can do from here now, so it's time to learn a new skill. It isn't entirely new, but we are going to need to know it. To get up there, we have to get through a portal. Simple enough. But the only portal wall is past this gap with gross goo in it. We can't shoot right across from us because then we won't be able to reach it. By now, we know how far we can jump and we know we have to get through the portal. So let's shoot it a little lower and then try and aim for that portal. It works! This is yet again another game mechanic that seems very easy and self-explanatory, but you're gonna appreciate that it taught you that you have to jump down into a portal because it'll come back. So they have to teach you that you can in fact do that, like everything in this game. The rest of this section are just shooting portals higher and higher and then using double fling to get over the pressure plate. The plate opens the door, but not permanently. So we have to get a cube, and there's a side room over here with a button that seems to lead into an entirely different testing room. This room we combine what we know to learn something new. We can't go anywhere in this chamber without being shot at by turrets. We know that their laser sights always line up with them when not shooting, and we know that the energy balls bounce off the black marks. We also know from first-hand experience that the energy balls can kill. So we try shooting one portal across from the laser and one on the black mark, and look at that. We're killing even more potentially sentient androids. It's easy as a mechanic. I didn't say it was easy on the soul. The rest of the puzzle is another turn-based energy ball redirection like in Companion Cube. God, I still miss them. Even now. And then we just take the moving platform over to a button that tilts a platform. We use this low platform to shoot ourselves over and grab a cube from the room above the button. Once the cube is over on the other side, we can hit the button and then use Portal to run back and slide under the wall we opened to get here. And then we can put the cube on the plate and finish the rest. Let's go! We're getting really good at this. Oh wait, yeah, there's more to this chamber. This part of the test kind of has a steep learning curve, but it's also maybe the coolest thing you can do with a portal gun. Building off of shooting portals in the air like we did previously, you shoot yourself up and then shoot the portal you're not about to fall into on the high platform, and then you fly around like Spider-Man from platform to platform, all ending without launching yourself. What a rush. I hope we get to do that more.
Well done. Be advised that the next test requires exposure to uninsulated electrical parts that may be dangerous under certain conditions. For more information, please attend an Enrichment Center Electrical Safety Seminar.
Well, guys, we made it. Chamber 19. All the danger signs we've looked at previously have shown the test chambers out of 19, so this must be the last one. We'll be gifted with our cake soon enough.
Welcome to the final test. When you are done, you will drop the device in the Equipment Recovery Annex. Enrichment Center regulations require both hands to be empty before any cake.
It's testing what we know. I know how to do this. It's just another energy ricochet test. Let's solve that and then keep moving. Oh, I know this. This is just the moving platform puzzle from before, but instead it goes forward. This is easy. Get this deadly energy ball out of the way, hit the button to shoot a portal on the farther wall, use the portal to get around the wall. All right, now this puzzle's getting going. What else do you got?
Congratulations. The test is now over. All Aperture technologies remain safely operational up to 4,000 degrees Kelvin. Rest assured that there is absolutely no chance of a dangerous equipment malfunction prior to your victory incandescence. Thank you for participating in this Aperture Science computer-aided enrichment activity. Goodbye.
Remember before when I said you're going to be happy that we learned that you can jump down into portals? This is the moment the game turns. At first we thought she was a pre-recorded voice, and then a multiple scenario pre-recorded voice, and then a sentient, emotionless robot, and now someone who tried to kill us. There's a couple things we do still have yet to learn, but from here on out the game ceases to be a tutorial story and starts telling the story through the gameplay. I mean, it was before, but now it's unavoidable. We escape into the filthy underbelly of the facility as the voice tries to convince us to come back. It's not just an AI with certain responses programmed. She's reacting to what we're doing and changing her plan on the fly. She's lying actively. She's alive. Trying to run up the stairs to escape will just collapse and show how run down this place truly is. But this area is the perfect place to teach us what walls we can and can't shoot portals on in the back rooms. And I don't mean, ooh, there's a scary siren head monster back rooms. I mean the actual back rooms where the horror comes from the fact that you're alone and it feels liminal and like it shouldn't exist. Use portals to traverse through what feels like a backstage area. The further we go, the more markings we see, like the warnings we've been seeing for a while now. We fall into an old test chamber to not only show us that these hidden rooms existed the whole time, but also show us how far we've come. We have all the tools. We don't need a cube for this plate. We have a portal gun. The next part requires a lot of ducking and trying not to get crushed. These pistons are all over the place, and while they can crush you, they can also be used as platforms. It truly feels like we're in the underbelly of the facility, as these tubes placed in close proximity resembles organs. And the voice we just escaped from gets quieter and louder depending on where we are. This one area is full of dangerous goo, but it also has broken railings and legitimate office rooms. What were they even testing for back here? And what does all this code on the computer mean? Whatever it is, I hope it has something to do with cake. Eventually we think we've made it, but the pistons drop us in this room with doors on every wall. What's amazing about the art direction of this game is the doors we see now are simultaneously more futuristic than what we have now, but less futuristic than the doors we've been seeing the whole game up until this point. Implying that whoever placed this trap for us, probably the voice, is not utilizing all of their power. They're on the ropes, and that the chambers we went through initially went through a lot of different revisions that we did not see until right now. And yes, it is a trap. She's placed turrets all around, but by now we've learned how to shoot behind them pretty efficiently. Unless you're me, because I'm not saying it again, no, because you're gonna make fun of, you can't make me. My friends will tell you I'm a terrible shot. There, is that what you wanted to hear? Just get out, man, leave. But there are multiple ways to solve everything. If you take one of the Half-Life barrels from the previous room with you, you can use it to block the turret shots. It's pretty cool that once you make it into the back rooms, you get to interact with more untraditional objects. Or at least untraditional for Portal. If you played Half-Life before, then you would find these barrels and doors incredibly familiar. But that just raises the question. Does this game have anything to do with Half-Life? I mean, it was released in a collection of percentage-wise, mostly Half-Life games, and unlike Team Fortress 2, it utilizes the same textures and models, and art style. Just something fun to think about while we're running for our lives. I know I said the game doesn't teach you as much anymore for a little bit, but these fake ladders are a stroke of design genius. 2 times so far, it's been a little confusing where you're supposed to place your portal. Oh, but look, the ladder leads right up there. I bet you I'm supposed to shoot my portal up there.
One bizarre fact of game design is that without some serious prompting, players will rarely look up. In this case, the prompt is a ladder. Most players will investigate where the ladder goes, which is up. The ladder actually falls apart as soon as it's touched, but by then it served its purpose.
And the ladders don't even work. They're fake ladders. They legitimately are only there to lead your eye direction up there and be like, oh, I should probably shoot up there. You crawl through some defective turrets and then follow the arrows our previous friend left us to knock over another turret and then open up the wall to this room. Over here. The cake is a lie, 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 the cake is a lie. I don't know how they didn't expect this to be a meme. They already have the first rule of memehood down, which is endless repetition. Hello? Can I help you? And then we see this strange drawing again. It's a sphere with a circle in the middle and a line through it. It can't be the energy balls, and it's far too round to be any of the cubes. What is this thing? We use another angled platform and double portal on the new texture we know we can shoot to fling ourselves and start traversing this, all things considered, pretty clean office. I can stop with the theatrics, I can stop pretending I don't know who this is. I feel like at this point in the game, the player will definitely realize that this voice that's been following us is a sentient being. And it seems like she's starting to let emotion overtake her normally logical demeanor. She tries to manipulate us, but when that fails and she receives no response, she immediately starts to level threats at us. But that raises another interesting question. Would she even be able to hear us? We know from the markings in the test that we aren't the only test subject. Have other subjects talked back to her? Or are they all mute due to their prolonged stay in the facility? Regardless, all we know about the character we're playing as is her lack of character. We know that she looks like a very far away woman and doesn't speak. On the opposite side of the coin, we have the voice that we hear all the time, but we don't know what it looks like. I mean, that is if she even looks like anything. If she is a robotic voice, she could just be like a laptop. But I imagine the kind of creature that can meddle with lives like this and feel almost nothing except a childlike glee about testing and potential murder must look like a monster. There's no way it looks anything human. Going through the offices will lead us to this fizzler. Walk through the fizzler and the door, and now we have a button. Oh, I have to walk you through everything? I have to hold your hand? Hit the button. The button activates a new kind of hazard. This rocket launching robot will launch rockets, and because we can't really go anywhere, like how the turrets were originally introduced, it shoots at the glass wall we're behind. But unlike the turrets, the launcher shatters the glass wall, becoming the first and only thing in this game that can break the glass. So we redirect the laser sight that locks in place as soon as its eye turns yellow, to shoot the window behind us and continue the escape. But then we get to another dead end, but this dead end has a glass wall of its own, and looking through the window will show an arrow that tells us where to go. So we know we have to get past this wall, and now we kind of know how to do that. The rocket launcher is all the way back here, but it does shoot straight into a white wall. So just like the energy balls, turret sights, and cubes, the rockets can be shot through portals. Breaking the glass and following the scratch marks left for us, we get to what seems like another dead end. The last time we got stuck, we consulted the rocket launcher, but it doesn't look like there's any glass in this room unless there's a white wall right under this. We learn here through trial and error that rockets can also break these tubes we've been seeing all over, and then the tube drops a cube that we can use to get up to a higher hole. Following even more marks left for us and shooting a portal through a fan to not get chopped up, we're dumped in what looks like a sewer. Yeah, Half-Life fans know what's up. All my Half-Life boys always hanging out in the sewer. This one's pretty simple. You just keep shooting your portals across. It's here to serve a storytelling purpose and not a gameplay one. That's been happening a lot as we're nearing something big. Shoot a portal through a grate and then waddle through ankle-high filth that isn't toxic enough to kill you, then Oh shit. Like when we first started the escape, we have to deal with turrets from all directions, except there are far more now, and some out of our reach. We're not actually learning anything new here. This is a mechanic we already know very well, except there's just more of it and harder. So I'm gonna take a page out of the games book, and while I'm not teaching you anything, I'm instead going to tell a story. All the other rooms so far have felt like back rooms that we weren't supposed to be in. Just a bunch of offices left in disarray with their computers on like whoever was here left in a hurry. Or sludgy, overrun hallways. Even the rocket launcher room seems like they had it there to run tests. But this room, what's its deal? We're told earlier that the turret test chamber wasn't meant for portal gun users, it was just a mix-up. So why are they here now? Why are they so high up? There's no place to observe them in this room. This couldn't be for tests. And why would the normal human people in the offices want a room full of machines that shoot on sight? Unless, unlike most of the rooms we've seen so far, this room is new. Earlier in our escape, we make it to a room with a bunch of tubes that open unexplained to trap us. And they weren't put there for no reason for us to stumble across. They were put there to trap us. We know that the robot voice now wants to kill us. She tried to kill us, and she has said that she wants to kill us. And then randomly we come across a room filled to the brim with stuff that wants to shoot us and by extension kill us? I don't buy it. There's a loud sound effect to let you know that the doors are opening as soon as you enter the room. Once we get past this section, we're faced with another and then 2 loaded turrets are lowered down from the sky. In the previous test rooms, we see cameras and snowy glass, implying that we are being observed. And then as we start our escape, it starts to seem like the voice can't see where we are because it's asking where we are, and it starts to get quieter. But as the escape continues, she starts to say things like, "You're going the wrong way," which obviously we know is a lie, okay? She's not gonna actually tell us if we're going the wrong way if we're trying to escape. However, why would she feel the need to tell us that unless we're going towards something important? And she can't mean the wrong way as in we're leaving the test chamber, because by the time we hear her say that, we're already far off from that. She's already talked to us a bunch since then. We're clearly going towards something she doesn't want us to find, and she can see us, so she's trying to direct us in the other direction by lying honestly pretty terribly. It's my belief that even though we can't see any more cameras or snowy glass rooms, those were used previously from the scientists or whoever was working in those offices to observe us, but right now we're being observed all over by this all-seeing voice who can always see us. And doesn't that just make you feel a little more on edge? She did say she was gonna kill us. She's nothing but a woman of her word. But the turrets are no match for our trusty portal gun that we can now use to launch ourselves the farthest we have ever done to continue our escape. The rest we can just walk through as we come across a rickety bridge over a big pit from the first Shrek movie, and then more office. Wait, a slideshow about Black Mesa? But that's the company from Half-Life. Holy shit, are these games set in the same universe? Oh, and I got some bad news if we ever manage to get out of here. Earlier I mentioned as an example Dark Souls and Kirby, and similarly, this doesn't actually aid in the player's adventure or them learning anything or the story being told to them. It's just a nice little lore tidbit that if you get into the series after beating the game, is fun to notice on a replay through. And it's not even just that. Honestly, if you know what you're looking for in this game, you can unearth some pretty crazy shit. There's little Easter eggs like this jellyfish dragon creature drawn on a couple walls throughout the game, or the fact that if you trap yourself in one of the first chambers, you'll get this.
You're not a good person. You know that, right?
Which this early in the game is a crazy reveal for this chamber we get to learn even more about later. But then there's deeper stuff. If you move the broken camera in one of these dens, you can find a website and login information. And at the time, it would yield a directory that you could fiddle with. If you type the code, "the cake is a lie," you get...
When was the last time you left the building? Has anybody left the building lately? I don't know why we're in lockdown. I don't know who's in charge. I did find out a few things, like these terminals don't have to tap out characters one at a time, and while we're all working on 20-year-old equipment, somehow they can afford to build an enrichment center. Check out this security feed. Whatever the hell the relaxation vault is, it doesn't have any doors. I don't think that going home is a part of our job description anymore. If a supervisor walks by, press return.
But if you check the website now, you just get this video. The Christmas video used to be way different too. It used to feature more Half-Life elements, like this gnome that normally appears on the mantle would sometimes be right in front of the camera. Later, when the website was changed so it would fit more in with the new canon, the thing in front of the camera would be the strange orange robot. I hope we get to meet this nice skinny fellow one day. Also, this login. C. Johnson? Who's C. Johnson? And that's a pretty fair question considering it's the only character name we've gotten thus far. Looking through this window shows a terrifying and bleak picture, but it only shows a walkway into that exact horror. And looking around this room, it's the only way to go. Some danger signs, that's probably just a formality. We enter the room and immediately our eyes are drawn up to this hulking mess of machine. As much as I really like the more animated design of her in Portal 2, this clunky design with cores sticking to her almost like tumors gives this horrific feeling. A bunch of images flash on the TV, some are Black Mesa logo, one is a boot, a lot of them are pictures of cake. Before this, we didn't know what to expect. We already felt helpless as the voice could always see us and controlled the facility around us. But on top of that, she's massive. And while she is a horrifying sight, she can't move from her spot. She's tied to the ceiling. Just based on this first game, there are a lot of theories about her, and we find out some more shocking details about her character in Portal 2, but just now, if you're looking at this design, it kind of looks like a woman is bound and gagged and held from the ceiling. Her design has the perfect combination of menacing and a little bit of pity.
GLaDOS, the rogue disk operating system that now runs Aperture Science, went through a bunch of design iterations. Earlier versions included a floating brain, a sprawling spidery mechanism, and an upside-down version of Botticelli's Rise of Venus built out of robot parts and wire. Eventually, we settled on a huge mechanical device with a delicate robotic figure dangling out of it, which successfully conveys both GLaDOS's raw power and her femininity.
Either she's really good at manipulating, or I'm way too forgiving, because I almost feel bad. Also, she's most definitely good at manipulating. I don't know why I said she might be.
Well, you found me. Congratulations. Was it worth it? Because despite your violent behavior, the only thing you've managed to break so far is my heart. Maybe you could settle for that and we'll just call it a day. I guess we both know that isn't going to happen. You chose this path. Now I have a surprise for you. Deploying surprise in 5, 4... Time out for a second. That wasn't supposed to happen. Do you see that thing that fell out of me? What is that? It's not the surprise. I've never seen it before. Never mind. It's a mystery I'll solve later. By myself. Because you'll be dead.
This purple thing fell off of her. It looks like there's a lot of these things on her.
That thing is probably some kind of raw sewage container. Go ahead and rub your face all over it.
Remember earlier when I said she's telling us we're going the wrong way when we're going the right way? Clearly she doesn't want me to have this. And you know what? It kind of looks like those drawings we've been seeing. The ball with the eye being tossed into something. All right, well, let's see. What else in this room? We have... Now I remember what I'm fighting for. Push the button, grab the core, and then toss it in the furnace. And you don't feel bad because it's just an eye on a robot. So far, we've had a severe lack of robots that don't talk, so you really feel nothing when you throw it in the furnace. I mean, it's just an eye that looks around and can't speak. Right? Also, yes, correct students, you may have guessed the only reason you have to mercilessly burn the companion cube in a previous test chamber is to teach you about this furnace mechanic. That's the only reason it's in the game.
You're kidding me. Did you just set that Aperture Science thing, we don't know what it does, into an Aperture Science Emergency Intelligence Incinerator? That has got to be the dumbest thing that... Whoa, whoa, whoa. Good news. I figured out what that thing you just incinerated did. It was a morality core they installed after I flooded the enrichment center with a deadly neurotoxin to make me stop flooding the enrichment center with a deadly neurotoxin. So get comfortable while I warm up the neurotoxin emitters. Oh, that core may have had some ancillary responsibilities. I can't shut off the turret defenses. Oh well.
Holy f***, I gotta get out of here. It seemed like these little core guys are part of her personality, and I just burned her conscience. Now the room's filling with a deadly neurotoxin, and I have under 5 minutes to live, all while the music changes to this fast-paced techno blood pumper. Exactly like the music changed in the big turret room. Fun fact, this really has nothing to do with the story, but the reason that room full of turrets is so vast, like the biggest room we've seen up until this room, is because that was the original room where you were gonna fight the boss, where you would follow around this mass of balls in like a cube form that was spinning around, redirecting turret fire to it. It was more of a laser, actually, but that fight seemed a little bit too action-oriented in a puzzle game, so they instead moved her to her own room. What's going on?
The game?
Oh, right. Not just the Zaza, not just the music, and not just the rocket launcher pointed at my face. She also taunts you throughout the whole fight. And all of those things added together. Wait a minute, did I just say rocket launcher? There's portalable walls all over this place. I know now what I can do. We do what we just did. And yes, just like the companion cube furnace section, the whole previous section was just there to teach you how to redirect rockets, and by that point, you do thoroughly grasp it. I don't know if you know this, but this game is pretty sweet. Use portals and bait the launcher so that it shoots a rocket at her, and when we do, she drops another core guy. I will say this, the room doesn't really give you that much time to figure out what's going on, at least not as much time as I'm giving to describe it. That being said, I have never died in this room, even when I played it the first time, but to be fair, I had already seen it, I knew what to do. I'm treating our hypothetical player like a video game baby because I want to prove how good this game is at teaching people. But at this point, they're done teaching. You need to use everything you've learned so far to fight the big monster. If you can't figure out that you need to shoot rockets at her by redirecting portals, I don't know what game you've been playing. Pick up this core and start to...
It may choose for orphans. Nice job breaking it, hero.
Oh my god, it speaks! It's sentient! It has such wonder and awe for life! I do feel really bad about that. And she's trying to use that to her advantage. The only way to stop her is to kill these helpless little guys, but always remember, she made us do this. She drew first blood when she made us kill our first and only friend.
There was even going to be a party for you. A big party that all your friends were invited to. I invited your best friend, Companion Cube. Of course, he couldn't come because you murdered him.
Shut it! That was the curiosity core. So she's not curious about us. She just wants us dead. Shooting her and then flinging ourselves up on this platform, we get another core that flew out of her, and it just lists cake recipes and some other concerning things. I guess that core represents her craziness, or her love for cake, or murder, or both. But what I'm more focused on now is this brand on her. GLaDOS. Gladys? So that's your name, huh? Well, guess what, Gladys? You're gonna pay for what you've done. But also, I don't want to die, so it's kind of a win-win.
Neurotoxin. So deadly. It's choking. I'm kidding.
Alright, burn the cake guy. I don't feel bad. The final core after the final rocket shot at her face is this evil red eye that just growls and snarls at you. I think I was wrong about the cake recipe one. Run away, hit the red button, make our way back to the fire, and just like our beloved cube and all those other cores had to die, so do you. You know, from the day I was born...
It's on a timer!
Oh, right. Toss the final core into Mount Doom. Her taunts fade and slow down as she falls apart and we're being raised up. The explosion launches us both out of the facility for the first time in this game, full of sterile testing rooms and dingy back rooms. We finally get to see the sun, smell the grass, feel the wind on our face. It's perfect. And then this fucking hoop lands right in front of us. Actually, now that I've played it over 10 times, and now that I'm getting a really good look at it, this hoop is the funniest thing I've ever seen. I think we should all make memes about it. This hoop is way better than any character's writing. Buy your Hoopy the Hoop t-shirt. He's the best character in the game. Could you imagine if that actually happened? But for now, we can enjoy our work. We can rest, knowing we defeated the monster that's been taunting us the whole game. And she is definitely not still alive. Where are we, by the way? Not only is this game a masterclass in visual storytelling and letting the player learn the mechanics by going through the game, it's also got the best video game villain ever. We're gonna get more into it when we tackle the second game, but despite coming in a package with the long-awaited Team Fortress 2 and one of the most famous game series of all time, Portal exploded in popularity after this. I'm talking web comics, fan art, memes, flash games, cake, quotes, cosplay. Basically all the stuff that was already pretty synonymous with gamey nerd shit. I live for that shit. Check out any normal boot screw attack game trailers, top 10 most evil, bestest epic video game villains. She's gonna be somewhere on that list. She should be #1 at all of them. Hey guys, welcome back, and today we'll be ranking Watch Mojo's top 10 hottest Sonic babes. That's because she's an active part of the story. Not only is she constantly taunting you, leading you to want to fight her so bad, she's also pretty funny. Portal as a series not only has this really interesting, sterile, ominous, horrifying feeling and a really smart way to teach you mechanics through gameplay, it's also just like really funny, like one of the funniest game series. It's just like a really funny game. And the second one is way sillier. And I don't mean high on life funny. I mean subtly funny, flirting versus harassment. I'm gonna peel back the curtain a little bit. I just want you to know that I wrote this script months ago. Referring to High on Life as harassment isn't referring to any recent events. It's just unfortunate. Ah, shit, I shouldn't have shown the potato. Something to remember while we rest here. We deserve a good rest. And we do get to rest here as the game fades out. Hardcore Portal fans, sit on your hands. I'm gonna get to it. Then the camera takes us through this mess of tubes and pistons to reveal this secret room that not only shows that there was in fact a cake this whole time, not like we're gonna be able to get it, but still, but that all these cores begin to turn on, showing that the facility is still running. Well, that's scary, but it's a good thing she's definitely dead. Sorry to ruin the surprise about the song, but I just had to show you guys that when I beat the game to get this footage, my game glitched out and GLaDOS kept talking slowed down while I was escaping and going through the cake room, which is horrifying. But then she also ruined her own song by talking over it. Anyway, once the game is over, we're greeted with a new title screen. No more of that foreboding relaxation chamber. Now the title screen shows a room with the cake as a reward. And one of these radios. Almost like it wants me to play the game again. And you know what? I love Portal. I'm down to play it again, so we're gonna play it right later. We'll play it later. So the original plan was to talk about both Portal 1 and Portal 2 in the same video, an equal amount of time. Not anymore. I'd much rather like to treat these videos like a series, and as much as I love Portal 2, it is different from Portal 1, and I don't think talking about it the same way I talked about Portal 1 in this video would really mesh. I'd much rather make 2 big videos about 2 games in my favorite game franchise, because it only has 2 games, only 2 mainline games. Because one of the cool things about Portal is how the development staff engages with the community. And in between the development of Portal 1 and 2, they had 2 different alternate reality games that people could engage with. If you're unfamiliar with ARGs, it's just like it sounds. It is a game set in an alternate reality. The story is being told like it's true. I mean, most stories are. It's kind of confusing. And more often than not, ARGs are tied to the internet. There's actually a lot of internet series that have secret lore in them. Isn't that right, floating N64 cartridge?
I'm not allowed to use the internet anymore.
You see, this is why I do this. I make my stuff for them. And by extension, if you're seeing this, I don't want to end up like that crazy guy in the game we just played, stuck in a den of his own creation, only able to talk to inanimate objects to properly replicate the idea of companionship, constantly controlled by a talking computer. Isn't that right, computer? Oh my god. But I refuse to leave on an anticlimactic note and let you guys feel like you've been shorthanded, alright? The whole point of this video was to convey the important storytelling of the game and why it stuck with people, but on top of the good writing, the atmosphere, the way the game teaches you, the reason the game stuck with people right as it ended and they beat it is because the game ends with a pretty iconic song. This one goes out to all the freaks out there. The freaks come out at night. This was a triumph. I'm making a note here, huge success. It's hard to overstate my satisfaction. Aperture Science. We do what we must because we can. For the good of all of us, except the ones who are dead. Now there's no sense crying over every mistake. You just keep on trying till you run out of cake. Basic science gets done and you make a neat gun for the people who are still alive. I'm not even angry. I'm being so sincere right now. Even though you broke my heart and killed me and tore me to pieces and threw every piece into a fire. As it burned, it hurt because I was so happy for you. Now these points of data make a beautiful line, and we're out of beta, we're releasing on time. So I'm glad I got burned. Think of all the things we learned for the people who are still alive. Go ahead and leave me. I think I'd prefer to stay inside. Maybe you'll find someone else to help you. Maybe Black Mesa. That was a joke, haha, bad chance. Anyway, this cake is great. It's so delicious and moist. Now these boys still talking when there's science to do. When I look out there, it makes me glad I'm not you. So experiments to run, there is research to be done on the people who are still alive. And believe me, I am still alive. I'm doing science and I'm still alive. I feel fantastic and I'm still alive. While you're dying, I'll be still alive. And when you're dead, I will be still alive. Still alive. Still alive. That must have sounded really loud. I think it's a combination of filming for hours, using a different shampoo, and just it being hot in here and the lighting. I've looked the craziest I have ever looked in any of these. Alright, I'll see you guys next time.